What's going on, everybody? We got a good one for you here today. Please meet Chad from the Masters Baker. What we're going to learn about is family business, evolving over time, and then also building upon the foundation that the generations who've come before you have laid. So this is Chad, the Masters Baker. This is going to be a good one. All right, so Chad, the Master Baker.
I wouldn't say that, but yes.
All
sure.
right. But so now that is your world and your life and your family's life, did you set out on that course, or what did you major in college? How did we get here today?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. In fact, I grew up in the business. I started washing pans when I was 6 years old, 7 years old, right out of kindergarten, mopping floors, doing all the daily grind with the business, whatever comes with a small business, especially the baking business. But it wasn't. I think by 15, 16, I was ready to be out of it. So I went to school for landscape design and horticulture, actually at Williamson College of the Trades and Media.
Oh, very cool.
Loved it. I loved working outdoors.
Yeah.
And that was my passion, and did that for about 10 years.
Right. So how, as you were, I'm imagining if you grew up washing pans and all that kind of stuff, there was maybe a sense of burnout around that time when you were like, hey, I'm done with this. Was it just not enjoying it, or what was it that you said, hey, probably not for me?
It wasn't. It was my mom's dream.
Okay.
It wasn't my dream. My mom and dad started the business. It was her passion. She's super creative.
Yes.
Loves love that. Love creating cakes. Love designing cakes for people. She did one for Ronald Reagan. Did the mall. She did some pretty cool cakes, but It wasn't our passion as kids. I mean, we all have the art. Like I went for landscape design, so we all have the art background, but that wasn't my niche. And so I was more outdoorsy. Drafting, that's what I really loved. And so it was definitely a burnout. When I left for college, I said, see ya.
Right,
like
and probably not coming back.
Yeah.
I
went nothing to the Bakers. So then I moved down to Charlotte for a little bit, and I think I had to move away in order to realize that it was a good business.
Right.
Yeah.
What did that process look like for you? Like, as that was starting to come into your mind's eye, hey, maybe there is something that can offer to my family and I, and that kind of stuff. What did that look like for you as it was evolving from I'm probably not coming home to I'm coming home? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is probably a little more sentimental, but it was right after 2008, a little bit of the financial recession hit. Mm-hmm. The business wedding industry took a hit. The 401s were down, so dads weren't affording much into the wedding. So cakes and the upgrades part of a wedding went bye-bye.
Yeah.
And so the business took a hit, and it was struggling. My older brother, Greg, at that point was running the business, and he decided and told my parents, he said, hey, I don't want to keep doing this. I want to stop. And my mom and dad were getting a little bit older, and they're like, what do we do? Do we retire? Do we sell it? And so at that point, I was down in Charlotte, came back up, and I sat on a porch. I remember this moment exactly. We sat on a porch swing at my mom and dad's house, and said, I think I could do this. I think I could make a go at this and make this happen. Because I'm a sales guy. I could talk I'm like my dad.
Right.
I could talk to a brick wall. I could sell you.
Yeah. I already bought like 3 cakes somehow before this thing started. So.
Yeah. I mean, I love talking to people. I love relationships. I love build. I mean, I was part of Young Life, so I love the relationships. I love building. And so I'm not good at cakes. You don't want to. You don't want me behind your cake. I'll screw it up.
Right.
But the business part is what I really loved. And that's what really caught my eye. And I told my parents, I told my mom sitting on that swing, I said, I can do this. Let me take it over. And so I came on as a manager, GM, right away for the first 3 years before she sold it to me.
Wow, very cool. So when I think from that, I might know the answer, but I don't want to assume it because it's something I've wondered is when you came back, if you could put a percentage on it, how much was it to help out your mom and your family? And how much of it was, I want to do this?
Yeah. I know that's a great question. So I'm super loyal. So my family is number one priority for me. And that comes get emotional even talking about that, but it's priority for me. So for me to see my parents retire well is what I wanted it to happen. Yeah. And so a lot of that in the first couple of years was, I'm doing this for them to get them to get the business in a much better spot. I knew that I could do it, and allow them to retire and be okay.
Right.
So I would say, to answer your question, I'd say 80% was the loyalty part and doing it for them. And the other 20% is like, I want something that I can take and I know I can succeed and I want to see me succeed in this.
Right.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was an easy decision.
Yeah. We have a lot of family business clients, and that's something I hear over and over again, a learning to love the business.
Yep.
But I find it's often driven by a sense of family first. And it was to help and serve family. And then they learn to love the business, if that makes any sense. So it sounds similar.
It absolutely does. I mean, if I did this, did this all over again, would I choose owning a bakery? No.
Right.
Not at all. I mean, I know that the food, there's so many other variables that we'll probably get into about this, but would I choose? No, I want it. So it was definitely the love of my family to see it succeed and to run really hard and give it a go.
Right. Very cool.
So here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that too.
Yeah.
So we always want to give many things, ideally, very practical to listeners and viewers. What was it like navigating that water of doing a business transaction? So you've done this, you've made this move, you've literally moved home for family and all these things, but then you get down to the business of a transition and a transaction involved in that transition. So what did that look like? How'd you navigate that against family versus the reality of a business value and all those things? What was that like for you guys to walk down that road together?
Yeah. So when I took over that business, it was 2010, and my wife, Becky, and I just got married. We got married in October. I took over the business in November of that year, same year. The business couldn't afford me. I came from a landscape design salary. I was doing well by myself.
Right.
And the business couldn't afford me. So for the first 2 years, if you're looking to take over a family business, be ready for some of the sacrifices that you have to make in order to do that. And so I looked at Beck after we got married, literally a month, and I said, "Are you okay without me taking a salary?" And she was a nurse, so she was able to jump on. She said, "Yeah, absolutely. I can jump more days, like jump in more days and fill in the gap." And so for the first year and a half, I never took a salary on the business. My job was to run hard after new accounts, new business. And so the transition, it was really hard. It was really hard. And then you have to deal with family who, for my mom, she was let's just say she made all the decisions in our family. Okay. She was the head honcho. She was the one who cracked down on discipline for us. Yeah. And she was the woman entrepreneur in the 1970s. Wow. You know how that's way ahead of her time. Yeah. She didn't take no for an answer. If some venue got in her way, she said, "Really, forget you. I'll go somewhere else." Like she stood her ground. And that's how she grew her business. So taking a business over from someone like that who has that baby and it's babied it and has made it into what she wants to become, and now me coming in and have my own ideas, Dave, that was some of the hardest years of my life. I mean, I remember there's one time I was sitting up at my buddy's wedding, and actually out in Ohio, got married. I was sitting in the parking garage with Beck in the car, and I was literally bawling. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Right. Like I said, taking a business over from a headstrong mom who's already has her opinion on everything, it wasn't easy. So there's a lot of navigation, a lot of conversations that needed to happen. Some cases maybe not happen. Right. I was going to ask, like, did they happen, or did you? There's some that just went by the wayside, and I think after a while, I looked at my mom in the eye and I said, "Hey, either I'm running with this and I'm going to take this over and I'm going to succeed in it, yes, and you have to back down, or this just isn't going to happen." Right. Like, and it was a hard transition because I know it was her baby. You know what I mean? And so it's like that. There's that fine line for all second generational business owners that you have to be really careful. I mean, you have to. You just have to be really careful in how you walk through that and be really open lines of communication between whoever you're taking from your mom and dad or whoever you're taking over from. I feel like it's got to be such a delicate balance because you have also when it's a parent, I don't know if you have this feeling, but like you might idolize a parent or you might, just want to be respectful, like you honor your father and mother, like those kind of things, but then also having to be direct with them. Like it sounds like you kind of had to draw a line in the sand as well. And so what advice would you have for we have a lot of businesses going through generational transition right now. What would be your number one piece of advice for someone who's walking that road currently that you walked years ago? Yeah. It's what you said, it's a level of respect that you have for your parents. Because I told my parents this. I told my mom especially, because my dad, he was in it, but it was mainly my mom.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey, I know where you've brought this business. Like, you have put in the groundwork. You've done a lot before me to make this business to where it is today. But there's a level of respect that you have to have. For me, in my case, my mom.
Right.
And then there has to be the other part of it where my mom had to let go of things. And sometimes that's the hardest things, but you have to be, what I've come to find out is that I had to be really patient. And Becky was really, my wife was really good with that, is she kept saying, Chad, just be patient, show her that you're in it, show her that you're for the business and you're trying to grow the business.
Right.
And she'll slowly, and I heard this from even my sister, Julie, she'll slowly take her fingers off of that. Like, instead of clenching it, she'll continue so don't try to pry her fingers off, but just let them loosely come off. And
that's good.
So I don't know, it's just a transition, and I thought it would take a month or two, and it ended up taking like 3 years.
Right.
So the transition may not be as fast as you want it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But your advice is to let it happen at the pace and
be patient.
Right.
Be really, especially with second generational businesses, just be patient.
Right.
Don't force anything. Because when you force stuff, it's just going to be, I could see it going a really wrong path.
We do see it going that way, yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of communication, we always encourage that, everything, yeah. So that kind of gets to one of my big questions, which was, or is, you guys are in this beautiful facility now, right? Was that in place when this transition happened? And then whether it was or wasn't, how do you honor the legacy of your mom in this case, the business in general, but also set out on your vision for what the future of it looks like?
Yeah. So that was the other thing, we had to be open lines of communication. So my mom's dream was to keep it in the house. It was an in-home business. We had done retail for a little while in Exton, and that was horrible. We never wanted to do retail ever again, where you have muffins and donuts out in a case.
Sure, yes.
We did that for 5 years. That was the worst thing for our family. It literally almost broke our family apart just because of how hard that was. Anyway, so she wanted to keep it in the home.
Yes.
And we had built a garage that we would put them into an in-law suite, and she had her whole vision about that. Do you remember that house?
I do.
In the
now that
middle
you
of the woods?
say that,
Okay.
I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's a big blue
in the
farmhouse.
woods. Yeah.
So that was her dream, to keep it there. Mine wasn't.
Right.
And the reason we stayed there for about 5 years, and the thing that I knew I didn't want to keep it there, but the thing that was able to convince my mom and me to move it out was I was after this caterer in Wilmington. Okay. Since that they've retired now, but back in 2012, they were going strong. They were doing like anywhere 100 to 150 weddings a year, which was big for us at that point.
Right.
Meanwhile, we were only at that point doing 300 weddings a year.
Wow.
So I had him come over. It was a February early morning. It had just snowed. He was in his SUV, a Lexus SUV. He came up the driveway, somehow got stuck on that little hill.
Okay.
He was an older guy, got out. He slipped on the hill, hit his knee, and I came down and I said, "Are you all right? Can we get you back up here?" He's like, "No, I think I'm just going to go back. We'll try to figure this out another day." And so right there, I lost a potential 150 weddings.
Right.
And I looked at my mom. I was like, "Mom, we're out of this house. I can't do this anymore. I need a more retail central spot. I need where customers can come in and not worry about going up a long driveway."
Right.
So that was a hard conversation. It took a while because that wasn't her dream. So we moved it into Exton. Moved into the Westchester location back in 2016, and wow. We have thrived and grown every single year since being there, and it's been a huge blessing, blessing for us to be in that business or that building, because now we have 3 apartments in that building that pretty much pay our mortgage. Yeah. So it's been a great facility for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned you were doing 300 weddings a year at the time. Go ahead and brag on yourselves a little bit. What are you doing now?
So last year we did 2,300 weddings.
Yeah, that's incredible. So think about that.
We were up. So back in it was 2010, and now we're on pace to do that every single year. And right now we're at January through March, we're at 17% growth already just in the first quarter.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we just constantly keep growing. Picked up some pretty massive caterers to help us out through that.
Oh, that's very cool. What has that been like for your mom to watch that growth? How would you, if I could, I'd ask her, but she's not sitting here right now, what would you say that's been like for her? Because as an owner, it's got to be, man, as a mom, it's got to be incredible to watch your kids thrive like that. As an owner, does she ever wonder, like, I wonder if I pushed a little harder or that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like, what are the tensions that you feel with that?
She's always said when I took over the business was at the height of where she would want to take it.
Okay.
She didn't want to take it any further. Like
Okay.
that was comfortable. She was able to pay her mortgage, put us through private school.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what she wanted to do, and she was happy with that. She didn't want to expand it to the way that I wanted to expand it.
Right.
And so, she was comfortable, and she was good. And so, but I talked to her all the time, Dave, and her and my dad. They must tell everyone in their community about what their son is doing up here with the Masters Baker and
Yes.
how it's grown. And and they take people to our website. And like if there's an article that comes out, they are the first ones to show it on their Facebook page.
Right,
Or,
yeah.
Like there's a level of pride with them. And
Mm-hmm.
being one of six kids, and my other brothers. So when my other brothers and sisters hear this, they're gonna know. But I'm one
Right.
of the favorite childs.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
definitely
just,
I'm
it's just a known thing.
It's a known thing.
Let's just
And
call
so,
it out. It is what it is.
I'm just gonna say this is what it is. I'm like the one
We're all
who's
about keeping it real here.
Yeah.
So good. That's good.
You have your favorite kid.
Yeah.
You'll never say it, but
But you know who you are.
you know you are.
No, I'm just kidding.
But for me, it's like you learn that probably when you're 30, who their favorite
Right,
people. I mean,
yeah.
we all know it, but they finally they say it to you. Who
Right,
it is.
yeah.
And so anyway, there's just a level of pride, and it's
Yeah.
and it's good. Like I no longer have to deal with the 3 years of taking over from my mom, the many yelling, the conversations, but like I'm done. I had it. It's now like I enjoy the company of them, and I enjoy like, hey, mom and dad, this is your business. You laid the foundation down.
Yes.
I have been for me, it's just coming on board of your foundation that you've already laid and
Right.
expand it. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like there's a pride inside of what I've done too as well for them.
Right.
And it's honor. You're just bringing honor to your family.
Absolutely.
And so I love it. Like I know they do too. They say it all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they're your big fans on that. That's
They are,
very cool.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Especially and their grandkids. They
Yeah.
they can't get up here fast enough to see
Very
us.
cool.
So.
Nice. You have an added dimension of family though within your business. You work with your sister also, right?
Yes.
So how has that been as you've grown the business? Because a business under growth is a business under pressure, right? So how do you leave family dynamics at the door when you walk in and it's all business, or what does that look like for you guys?
You don't.
Okay.
I don't know who does that. They may say they leave them at the door.
Right, you try,
but
no.
you never do. It never happens. And
Right.
so Christy's one of the, if I can say, she's one of the best designers and best people in the pastry world. That's an understatement. She's so talented, and this is my sister, my twin sister, actually.
Yep.
She came on and was baking for us all last year, and was doing 50 weddings and 10,000 minis back there with her team, just her baking and getting this all ready, because we now entered into the mini desserts arena.
Right, yes.
And so she's unbelievable. I trust her. Like I trust her so much that I have to tell her where we are financially and say, hey, we can't afford to do this. I have to lead that realm. And then she's super gifted. And so she's actually took 3 months off, January through February, and is coming back up here now to help us out through the busy season. But there's the dynamics where it's still heated conversations. Because
Right.
you see one way, she sees another. Well, hey, this is how mom did it. This is how I do it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I pay the bills, and like I'm the owner, so she gets that.
Right.
But again, the same words I keep going back to are respect and honor, and especially with my twin sister, I value my relationship with her more than I value the business.
That's awesome.
And so, if I understand, like, if we both are mutual about that, then we can really do really incredible things together.
Right.
I mean, if we value each other more than we value the business, we're
Right.
it always boils down to that for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you ever had to say though, like, hey, if this was totally a professional situation, if we weren't brother and sister, like, let's just get it back into the box of just like treating each other like colleagues. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're now talking we're yelling at each other like we're 7 years old or something. You know, like
Wow.
you
That's-
always.
It's a really good question, because I'm like, would we have survived this long if we weren't brother and sister? I mean, there's always that link that keeps
Right, yeah.
keeps you tethered together.
Right.
That's a great question, because I'm
hard
like,
to know.
I don't know, would she still be here, or would she be like, forget it, I can't deal with this guy?
Right.
So
It's probably that.
no, the business wouldn't be anywhere it is without her. Like
Right, yeah,
she
absolutely.
came in and she was actually at one point down in Texas, and Becky and I called her and said, hey, we really want you to be a part of this. And she stayed with us for 3 years and took the business to new heights. So
Yeah.
I have so much respect for her. So yeah, but if it wasn't family,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know where we would be.
Right. Yeah.
She
Who
might have
knows?
been long gone 3 years ago. So
But that, I feel like whether it's family or not, that you have to me, your business has a unique thing. One, product that has a timeline, right?
Correct.
A mandatory timeline. Two, you have seasonality, so you have pressure from that. But then you're in a very, a very creative environment as well.
Mm-hmm.
So how, as a leader, do you balance the freedom for your creative team to be creative, and then also the reality of having to keep the promises of your sales staff and the caterers that rely on you and things like that? How do you create balance between those two things that could be opposed?
Yeah.
You know, just let me do my thing.
I know. Let me be.
Yeah.
So that's one of the whole reasons we got out of retail, is because we didn't want to mess with that day-to-day stuff. And the whole reason we got into what we're doing now with wholesale, like all our country clubs, our caterers, and our hotels, was because we know ahead of time what we're doing. So we already know for the second weekend in May how many weddings we already have booked for that weekend.
Right.
So we're already game planning for that and getting creative on different designs. We have 2 wedding consultants who meet with all our couples and design out the cake. So all this homework is already done ahead of time. The issue with us being a super creative team is it doesn't go as easy as that. There's always changes that happen, especially with the last minute orders that we get. For example, not naming any names, but we had 1,000 minis come in for tomorrow, and that was brought in last night at 8:00.
Literally tomorrow?
Tomorrow. So we have one day. So the creativity part of my team, and this is a big caterer for us in Philly, so
Sure.
we have to say yes.
Right.
And that's one of my biggest things, and I can even share in a story with Finley about that. But we have to say yes, because if we say no, then they'll go somewhere else in a heartbeat. And so that's where my burnout happens, is because I'm saying, hey, I'm sorry, team, I've got another order that's 1,000. I've told them ahead of time. I've told them 1,000 times, please order, give us your orders.
Sure.
So we just have to deal with those last minute. And for a creative team like that kind of burns at both ends.
Right.
It hurts to give those kind of orders, but we need them, and we can't say no to them.
Do you watch the team rally for those? Like they know that you didn't just say, send it to us whenever. They know you're fighting for them, but they also know this happens. Like what?
Yeah, I know. What do you do? What's the? I do. So there's like 2 weeks ago, there was one order where it was only 100 desserts, and I told them no because it was too last minute. And I told my whole I make sure I tell my team, hey, by the way, I said
What
no.
you said no to.
I said no. You got to make sure you got to tell your team, because they'll never know.
Right.
And so, hey guys, I said no to this because it was a Friday and they requested it for Saturday. I didn't want you guys coming back in, so I said no to that.
Right.
I'll eat it, whatever that means. But so that way, the other ones that are more crucial, that they'll jump on board, and you have to rally them, and I'll jump in there with them. So as the owner, huge. I'll jump in and do minis, or I'll make boxes for them, or whatever I can do, stay late with them.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm working for my team, and I'll wash pans, whatever it takes. Like the baking team has a whole set of dishes that they dirty the whole day. Right. I'll sit down there and do all the dishes for them, so that they see you playing that game with them, and then they're ready to rally for you for the next time.
Right.
So, because everyone's all hands on board.
Yeah. And that right there, everybody, is why I wanted Chad to come do this, because I know that's the type of leader he is, and I know it's how you're wired, and so it is.
It is. Like it's mom and dad. It's like it's what your parents wire into you, and so I'm wiring to my kids that at the end of the day, I'm not cracking the whip by any means, because our slogan on our wall, it says to honor its customers, to invest into its employees, and generously give back into the community which we serve. I love that. So I want to be that's my statement for my business, then I better be a living example of that to everybody around me, my employees, my customers, and my community. Yeah. And so just getting there, washing dishes.
That's awesome.
That's what that means.
I love it.
So
as the business has grown, you brought up community. What is something that you've been able to do in the community that you were just thrilled to be able to do because of where the business is at?
Yeah. Yeah, we get asked, I say this, we must get asked 10 times a week for donations, from cakes to gift cards to you name it. I think the food world gets heckled all the time. I've come up with a solution, but we'll talk about that later. But anyway, our main things are things that we really love. Like I've always been passionate about the women who are maybe single or kids who are more broken and beaten. And so that's been one of my mission statements, even through the Bible. What I love that, and I want to be a part of that. And so for us, it's like Westside Community Center.
Yes.
We pour a lot into that, whether it be finances or we're doing all their chocolate flourless cakes for
very cool.
their big event coming up in another month. We give back to Young Life. We do a food pantry out front of our building.
Yeah.
We're still partnering with restaurants all in Westchester where we send our couples and they knock 10% off, but we send all our couples there. So cool. I love the community part of it. And that's the whole reason I wanted to move into the borough, was to give back.
Right.
Unite for Her. We push out a lot towards Unite for Her. So there's some that we keep in the front of our minds, and we just help as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
It's a blessing. Like that's one of my biggest gifts, is to give back.
Right.
And so be able to do that now that we're doing 2,300 weddings plus all the desserts, it's in my wheelhouse.
Right.
And like my eyes light up because I'm like, what can I do? I mean, I can't do everything.
Sure,
but
of course.
what can I do to give back to the community, and which has blessed us so much. So
that's awesome. And running a strong business that is profitable, existed, like that's really important. You can't do any of those civic minded things without that being there. Like the business
Correct.
is the platform for that. It's,
Yeah.
So it's really neat to see you. I know you used it faithfully when it was a smaller platform, and now it's a bigger one. You're just doing more cool stuff, so it's really...
No, it is really good. The food pantry has been really, really amazing to watch. Like,
Right.
and I, for any small business owner, I mean, the more you, it's like the blessing hand. The more you bless others, the more you'll get back in return. And
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
Right.
And that's what the business has been for us, as far as us blessing. So the food pantry hanging on our wall.
Yeah.
Last year we estimated about 12,000 pounds of food went through that thing.
Wow.
And so it's been really, really fun for us to watch.
That's awesome.
So
that kind of makes me think about the team, and does your team rally around those things as well, or is it more your vision leading that, or have you seen the team get as passionate about the community as you are?
Yeah, they sense that, but it's more my vision as a business leader. With that, they all have things that they give to in their communities.
Yes.
And some of our designers come from an hour away, so they have their own communities in Bucks County or
Wow.
Out in Lancaster.
Yeah.
So this has definitely been my vision, but I know without a doubt they see it and they feel it. And I know they pour that back into their communities where they're at.
Right.
So
I remember when of the things that when we were reconnecting a little bit was COVID, right? We're in a post-COVID world.
Yeah.
But your industry took it on the chin in COVID, non-essential, all those things.
I've never been a part of government more than ever than in those 3 years.
I know, you put yourself out there.
I was in Harrisburg on the front steps.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So what was that like, again, maybe just for the team and navigating through, because I think that's an easy one, that's low-hanging fruit for just navigating through rough water, right? So maybe that is an example, or something else you've had to deal with for how, as a holistic, because it's not just all about the bottom line for you, not even close. It's about so many things, and you spin the plates and juggle everything so well. But what did it look like to lead through a hard time and stay true to all those core values throughout the hard stuff as well?
Yeah. Even when I first came on, Dave, I mean, when I first came on, and hey, you can't take a salary, and there's things behind that was my first trial by fire.
Right.
You walk into this and hey, you're not going to get paid from what you, and so that was really hard, and lean on my new wife at that point and say, hey, can you take care of our family and be the breadwinner for our family? And so we walked into it hard.
Yeah.
So with a small business, there's never, you're always going to have hardships constantly. COVID was one of the most prime because it's in our face.
Right.
And that was easy, but from dealing with staff, I mean, I come from a landscape design group, which was all men, and then to my baking team, which is me and 16 women. And so how to jump from a landscape design where it's all guys, where it's just quiet, we're all in our offices working, to now dealing with you come in and you're talking about different things, and you're open communication.
Right.
And it's allowed me to be a better communicator, but it's just like you're dealing with things that I've never had to deal with before. And my wife was like, well, good, you should be able to deal
Right,
with these
exactly.
things.
Yeah,
'Cause I have two little girls
stretching it.
now.
Right,
so this is
exactly.
just helping you. So it's been really good. But there's been definitely COVID was definitely the biggest thing for us.
Right.
I mean, kind of shutting our business pretty much practically down. But then understanding who we are through it all, and we still were able to give back even through COVID. We did because we were celebrating our 50th anniversary. That 2020 was because we started in 1970.
Yes.
So 2020, I forgot about that, was our 50th anniversary. So Dave, we all year long, even through COVID, when we had no money coming in, we still gave 50 prizes through that whole year towards
That's
the community.
awesome, man.
You just never stop. You never stop your mission statement.
Right.
Whatever that mission statement is, or whatever you believe in for your business, you never stop that.
Right.
And so it's again, what I said earlier. You give a blessing, that blessing's going to come back to you tenfold, and it has.
Yeah.
We've seen it.
That's awesome, man.
So.
You mentioned a story about Finley.
Oh yeah. So Finley,
I'll throw that
I
out
know.
for you.
So Finley
Take that wherever
Catering,
you want it.
none of you guys, for all you who are not in this world, they're a large caterer. They have 3 ballrooms down in the city, one in Newtown Square, and then they're building a new one, and they just are wedding after wedding. And so we knew that was going to be a big account. I started on them 9 years ago. Started talking to the owner of Finley Catering, and he shot me down quick. I mean, it was just like, no. I'm like, okay,
We have
that's
a
fine.
relationship, all that stuff.
Yeah, we have a relationship. We got our bakery down in I don't care. Termini's down in South Philly. And
Right.
like, that's great. They're a genuine old school bakery.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you want your name with them. And so most people probably would say, okay, stop, or maybe touch pointed them at like 3 or 4 more times.
Right.
Dave, I didn't stop for 8 years. I was
Love this.
every 3 months. I was
Yep.
it was either an email, a phone call, or stopping at his front door at his office,
Right.
and saying, "Hey, I just want to drop off a pie to you, drop off a cake to you.
Right.
Have a great day. Tell your family I said hello." Or not even talking about the business part of it, but just like
Right.
touching him for 8 years, like just at different touch points.
Can I just pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
Like, everyone who's listening or watching this needs to hear this part. Whether you're in sales, business development, you own a business, I'm loving where this is going.
Yeah.
Every 3 months for 8 years.
Every 3 months, I put it on my phone to say, "Hey, go reach out to Steve." And so, yeah, so was it right before COVID? He texted me because at
Yeah.
that point I now have a cell phone. After
Right.
8 years, you finally get a cell
eventually
phone.
got a cell number. Was it around year 5?
So then I was texting, and so him and I were buddy. But no,
Sure.
it wasn't like that. It was tough. I mean, sometimes it was really tough, like communicating. He was like, "Let me go.
Right.
Don't reach out to me anymore." I'm like, well, that's not gonna happen. Like, I'm sorry, bud. You don't tell me, a sales guy, to not reach
Right.
out to you anymore.
Makes you want it
I hate
more,
this
probably.
because now my sales guys are gonna reach out to me with me saying
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
But so anyway, so he said right before or after COVID, he said, "Hey, Chad, listen, call me." Oh no, he stopped at the bakery and I wasn't there. He texted me. He said,
Wow.
he said, "Where are you?" He said, "I was going to give you all my business and you're not here, so I forget it." And I was my hands started sweating. I'm like, "What?"
Right.
So I called him right away, and he said, "Listen, Termini's is no longer doing wedding cakes. They're going to focus on their retail." He said, "Well, we want you guys coming on board with us." He said, "You are the most aggressive bastard I've ever dealt with in my life." He said,
it.
"Come and meet with us at our venue."
Right.
Went and met with him, and now we do all his weddings.
It's incredible.
So you never stop. You never take no for an answer.
Right.
And that was one of my biggest success stories in this business. Yeah. And there's been others, but he's the most notable because of the size of who they are.
Right.
And so it's been good.
That's awesome.
There's Philly.
Man. Everybody who's out, rocking and rolling and in their cars maybe right now on their way to a prospect, like, I hope you take some joy in that, because that's what it takes.
Yeah.
There are things that are worth that kind of effort and follow-up, and
Yeah.
you earned his respect. Even, you know what I mean? You had his respect before you had him as a client.
You never know what's going to happen with your competition either.
Right.
I never knew that Termini's was going to stop doing wedding cakes.
Right.
Who could have predicted that?
Yes.
I mean, COVID was probably a big blessing for us and also a big curse for us. But in this way, it was a big blessing because it allowed them to stop doing weddings and us focus on it. And he also said to me, he said, "Well, Termini's has a brand.
Right.
Like, they have a brand out there within Philadelphia. Like, everybody knows about Termini's."
Right.
I'm like, "Well, Steve, you pick us up, we'll be known in your
Yeah.
area." And so it's just like those little things that you just kind of, shoot. And
Yeah, that's a great
It's all
story,
good.
man.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
So here we are.
So that's obviously a big step in this process for you. And, as we kind of draw it to a close, what does the vision look like for you for the business moving forward? Based on where it's come too.
I know it's come a long ways. And, what would this podcast look like 10 years ago if I was talking to you? I'd probably been like, give up, I'm done.
Well, we'd both be like, you'd be in your house, I'd be in my basement. So it'd be a real interesting podcast.
So it's always after the fact that you can have these conversations like, man, we're definitely we're blessed to where we are. Mm-hmm. My biggest thing with all my caterers and like even Surratt Catering here in Westchester is that I take care of them, no matter what. Like I never will say no to them. I always, so they have come on with our business, not only because of what we produce and because of the talents on our team, but because of an owner who takes great pride in his product and will, if something goes wrong, he'll make up for it.
Right.
And so answering your question is, it's hard because sometimes I feel like you're leading the ship, and a lot of people look at you for leading the ship, and so the direction kind of depends a lot on you.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of things that are where we want to go with the business. We have definitely a lot of growth. There's a lot of growth within our space too as well.
Right.
And so we've tackled pastries, mini desserts in the past 3 years. We picked those up. That's something new for our business.
Right.
But I keep telling my team, hey, we have a caterer that we're working with. We're doing their wedding cakes. What else can we get from them? Like what other business can we pick up from that caterer or that hotel? And so now I want to develop a program, which is fine. I don't mind saying this on here, but I want to develop a program where I can begin to sell nationally to every other bakery out there.
Yes.
Of how to, when you first touch point of a customer, to the internal process of the baking and the whole baking team, to supplies, costing, delivery,
very cool.
To touches afterwards and saying, hey, what could we have done better? Or, and when I say that is, for example, like a wedding, they have the wedding cake from us. They have desserts from us. They have favors from us. They have a bridal shower cake from us. Now after they're done, they start thinking about first birthday cakes with us.
Right.
You start talking about communions and christenings and anniversaries.
Wow, the life cycle of it all.
So now we become a life cycle with them.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to watch that too as well, where we have met with girls who not only does their mom come in who got their wedding cake from us,
right,
but the grandmother's coming into the tasting with them.
Yes.
And we did her wedding cake.
Very
so
cool.
we're at 3 generations. So I'm trying to figure out how we can capitalize on being, like what you just said, a life cycle.
Yeah.
Of we're celebrating all their special moments.
Right.
And so
awesome,
our foot's planted, our foundation's here.
Right.
Now just how to expand that and get into, you rely on us every single moment of your life.
Right. That's incredible. You guys have come so far, and yet I feel like we haven't seen anything yet. You know what I mean? It's awesome. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't tasted their stuff, not only is Chad a great guy, but that their organization makes incredible desserts, cakes, everything. So for all events of the life cycle, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and your team, how would they do that, Chad?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Dave.
Yeah.
So the best way is just jumping on our website, themastersbaker.com. Add an S after master. Everyone always forgets it. Themastersbaker.com. Or give us a call. We have some great social media, so you can jump on our Instagram or Facebook. You'll see a lot of our work.
You guys do a nice job with that.
Thanks. Well, it's easy to sell cakes because it's an art, and so our social media is easy to grow. Our social media is easy to grow.
Right. Yeah.
But, content's easy.
Fantastic.
Correct. So yeah, jump on there, see our work, and then if you're getting married, set up a tasting. Love to have you in.
Yeah. You won't go wrong.
Nope.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on, Chad. Hope everybody enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time.